first of all, in front of a television. They are preoccupied with things that are not challenging their minds. When a child hears a story, they're processing that oral storytelling, and they're using their imagination, and they're seeing things within a story concept that many of us won't even see. And then when we give those children a piece of paper and we give them some markers or some crayons and we ask them to draw the parts of that story that were important to them, we've crossed into another whole area of art. And the kids can actually tell their own story through artistic medium. And they sit and they listen to a story. I've worked with hundreds of children where the teachers will say, well, Johnny's not going to sit through this whole thing. How long is it going to be? And I'll say, oh, don't worry about Johnny. I'll take care of him. And they'll put him in the front row. And you know immediately that that's the child you're telling that story to, even if there's another 20, 25 kids sitting there. And when Johnny doesn't move, and that teacher says, well, I don't know how you did that, I have actually said to them, but you were there. Because when you're excited about language, those children get excited about language. And we talk about language development every day. And the way they're going to develop that language is using their language. So I try to have participation in my stories where the kids do a callback and the kids learn new things. I have a little story that I tell, and the word nuisance is in there. They're first and second graders that don't know what the meaning of the word nuisance is. But if those little children that are 3, 4, and 5 have ever heard me tell that story, they know what a nuisance is. And so that little telling of that little small story planted that seed of developing more language for them. The book Creative Storytelling, that is part of the pre-K program for Frog Street, is kind of a passion with me. The stories that are in there each have a special meaning for me. The 5 little monkeys, for instance, we all know that the monkeys jumped on the bed and the monkeys swung in the tree, but my monkeys make monkey faces, and the kids get to make their own monkey faces. And so just watching, being on the other side of that little telling is exciting for a storyteller. And there's an old story in there about how a grandmother challenges a grandson to go find a little red house with no windows, no doors, and a chimney on top. And everybody that he asks, from the pig and the cow and the mule, none of them have ever seen that little red house. But he sits under a tree, and that little green worm, he knows exactly where that house is. The little boy takes that apple into his grandmother, and she says, oh, but there's a light inside of there. He says, oh, Granny, there can't be. And she slices that apple in half, opens it up, and there's a star inside. And that's a story that I think every teacher needs to share with children, especially in the fall when the apples are falling off of the trees. The Modern Three Bears is a story that is a love of mine, because if the children know about the 3 bears and the porridge and Goldilocks, and they know about the chairs and the beds in the story that I wrote, they can use their prior knowledge to process the new story, because it uses pizza, which every kid today knows what a pizza is, headphones, all of them probably have a set of headphones, and water beds upstairs. And my Goldilocks, she had a little bit of a problem being kind of nosy, and so she learned a lesson. I didn't say that, but the kids know, aha, she isn't going back there anymore. So each of the stories that are in creative storytelling also have props to go with them. The teachers can color them and put them on sticks, and the kids can have puppets, or the kids can wear them, and they can reenact and retell that story. And in today's world of standards, those are some of the things that children need to do, but they've got to have fun doing that if we want them to remember those things. So that's why those stories